So welcome everybody. This is the Health Terminology and Interoperability Standards Certificate Programs Information session. And this session is all about the online professional development certificate operated by the School of Health Information Science here in the Faculty of Health of the University of Victoria on Vancouver Island, BC, Canada. Welcome. So we'll have time for questions and answers later. I really don't mind if anyone interrupts me to ask a question, that's fine. But you might feel more comfortable doing it at the end. So we'll get through here. I'll begin by acknowledging and respecting the Lekwungen, that's the Sonjis, Esquimalt, and Kasepsin peoples on whose territory the university stands, and the Lekwungen and Wasanj peoples whose historical relationships with the land continue to this day. Speaking to the land, here's an aerial shot of the university, and I don't know any native languages myself, but the area that the university occupies is up on a hill, and it's so named for the way it looks from the water. So if you're in the water looking up at the hill, then UVic is known as that place up on the hill, which I love. Anyway, so we're just south of this building here, down below on the screen. Hey, I am Simon Minchell. I'm a teaching professor at the School of Health Information Science. Oh, I need to update some of my words in the slides there. We're now called the Faculty of Health as of about 2 weeks ago. And we were proud to be a part of that organization. So I'm part of the School of Health Information Science. We're within the Faculty of Health, and we teach a range of programs. We have an undergraduate Health Information Science BSc. We have master's programs, PhD programs, and this certificate as well, which is meant as a professional development thing, which is why you're here. So we're going to talk about that. Now, the agenda loosely, and we're going to talk about what standards are, because, you know, it's possible you're wondering that. We're going to talk about what's in the program, why you would imagine yourself doing it, why there are 2 streams to the program, and I'll explain what the streams are and obviously why there are 2 of them. And then more deeply as to how would this program actually help your career. And I've got an example of some people involved. We have one guest speaker today, Dennis Lee. He's on the call as well, and we'll hear more from Dennis a little bit later, including an introduction. Okay, and we'll round up by not only questions and answers, but information on how you find out more information, and we'll let you know about the details of enrolling. Okay, so what is a standard? I love explaining this concept. This is not about health standards, it's just what is a standard. And you might be wondering why your car is as wide as it is. You've got your 2 wheels in the front, 2 wheels in the back, and the car is a certain width. Well, that width is standardized. No matter where you buy a car, a standard car has a standard wheel track, the width distance between the 2 wheels, left to right. And that goes way back to before the Common Era, where we had chariots and horses. And the designers of the chariots had to design their chariots to be stable while pulled by 2 horses. And what it meant was that the wheels were set so that they were exactly as wide as 2 horses. And that propagated on. It became the standard width for railway tracks. It became the standard width for wheeled carriages in the 17, 18, and 1900s. And this example I'm showing here is a 2-horse drawn sleigh with exactly the same wheelbase. And you can kind of see why. You wouldn't want it any narrower because it might tip, and you wouldn't want it any wider because you wouldn't want the horses to pass through a gap and then jam the vehicle dragging behind it. Okay, so the standard width of vehicles is set by 2 horses. It's a type of standard. You would learn more about this in the program. That is pervasive. It's all around the world, and that's why we do what we do. So what does this have to do with health standards? It's very similar. It would be a mess if all our cars were different widths. The roads wouldn't work, the pavements would be wrong, garages would have to be, it would be nuts, it'd be a mess, right? So imagine you have a series of departments in a healthcare organization. You pick the organization. You have multiple places. One could be the ICU, the emergency room, long-term care, whatever. And you all capture data. You all write things down as they occur to keep records, to pass on notes and stuff. And if we all did that in our own way, if each department wrote their own notes in their own style with their own syntax and their own coding, it would be a mess because you couldn't communicate with your neighboring department in your organization because they speak a different language. Okay. And so the task of organizing how all of these things would interoperate grows geometrically with the number of departments you need to coexist in the same organization. So what if instead we all spoke the same language? That's what's shown here on the right. Okay, and that's the role of health standards. If we all speak the same encoding language, if our data is all stored in the same manner, then we have a much easier time about it, right? So it looks good on paper, it looks nice and clean on a diagram, but the reality is, once you get into standardizing health data, now instead of having all kinds of different departments speaking all kinds of different language, now we have a whole bunch of different standards. And they're all, the lines are shown just for illustration. They all kind of relate to each other and they all connect and they all map and one begets the other and evolution's involved. And some of them are specific to imaging, some of them are specific to terminology, some of them are classifications, some of them are organizations that look after what standards should be used and approved and all that stuff. Some of them are used for messaging, passing messages, as we do every day in every hospital around the world. So it becomes this almost like a bowl of spaghetti, okay? But I would argue that despite that, it's still better than not having any standards. In fact, I would argue that it's way better than not having any standards, okay? So if healthcare IT runs on standardized information, as I'm letting you know that yes, it does, then how do we untangle all of these standards? Well, I've got a solution for you. And the solution is to learn more about it. Okay, and that's the reason why the health terminology and interoperability standards graduate certificate, professional certificate exists in order to train you, potentially, how to manage all of this health information and make it meaningful and really improve all aspects of healthcare, because it needs to be done, and we need more and more people every year to get this stuff done. All right, so you could enroll in the HTIS. I know it's a long name title for the program, so we'll call it HTIS for now. You would be eligible for a professional credential known as the CTSS. I'll explain what that is in a bit. You would gain knowledge and skills in the adoption and management of health standards. Okay, that's that diagram with all the arrows in it, right? You'd understand what that is, and you'd understand the interrelations of it. It's not as hard as it might seem on the surface. You would apply it to the adoption and implementation of interoperability standards. It's not enough to know about this. You've got to take it to the workplace and make sure things like your projects begin with standards and not have them added on as an after effect or as an afterthought. Okay, and it's not only applying it, you'll also get the chance in the program, at least, to do research in a bit more meaningful way with a field project. And again, we will touch on what the field project is and might be for you in a few more slides. And some people shown here. Dr. Lee is there on the lower right. He's on your, if you've got your strip open, you'll see him there waving. He's there. He teaches one of the 4 courses in the core curriculum. Dr. Linda Bird is shown to his left. Linda is based in Australia, and she teaches the other 3 courses in the program, including the capstone. And so these are the people you'll see on a week-to-week basis should you enroll in the program. It was founded by Dr. Lau on the left in the upper picture, pointed to by a recent graduate, Reza. Dr. Lau founded this in collaboration with the Canadian Health Information Management Association in order to have a way for students to gain this professional certification in order to become recognized as a certified, to become certifiable, right? That's why we're doing all this. And so we are deeply grateful to him for setting all of this up. So what's the program all about? Well, let's dive into this. I said it was 4 courses. All 4 are shown on the screen right now. Typically, you would most people enroll in this program to begin in September. It is possible also to join in January. So I'm going to take it from the view of September. Okay, we begin in the winter session, that's the fall term, with HINF 535. HINF 535 is a course about health information standards. You can think of it as a survey course. You're going to learn a lot about the various kinds of standards there are in healthcare, not just terminology, but also classification and overarching standards, such as the standard for what standards we should be using in Canada and things like that. That's all covered by HINF 535, taught by Dr. Bird. You'll notice that almost all of these courses begin after work from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. All of these courses are online. Even the virtual workshop course is also online. So it's designed really for you to enroll in the program while you're working, and so that after work, 1 day a week, you spend with us in the classroom and get your mind around these concepts. Okay, there'll be work to do when you're not in class. There's a homework or assignments given out to help you gain skill in dealing with and managing and using. Even if you don't end up using the standards manually, if you like, by manually encoding, and if you're managing a team of people, it's still useful to know how it's done manually so that you can relate to your employees. Okay, so the survey course it wraps up at the beginning of December. You get a break over Christmas. Come back in January, and I'm going to ask Dr. Lee, we call him Dennis, to share screens. Sorry guys, do I need to kill my screen share?
I can replace the current share, I think.
That's the power.
So let's see. Do you see my screen now that I've taken over Simon's share?
Yep, we see it.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Simon. Yes, my name is Dennis Lee. I'm an assistant professor here at the School of Health Information Science, and I'm the instructor for HINF 536 on Controlled Terminology Standards. This coming January will be the 8th time I will be teaching this course. So this certification program has been going on for all 8 years. So hang on a second, my mouse has disappeared for me when I shared my screen. So over here, as Simon mentioned, there are many different types of health standards. Throughout this certification program, we'll be covering a lot of terminology standards, content standards, as well as transportation standards. There are other types of service standards and security and process quality, privacy standards that we will not get into as much detail. But the focus on this course or this certificate program is really on terminology, content, and transport standards. This particular course on 536 is focused on terminology standards. And as you can see on this slide over here, these are some of the terminologies that we use across Canada and the different organizations, and how, as Simon said, some standards, in a sense, beget other standards as well. So a lot of these standards are linked. We won't go into all the details for all these particular standards, but we'll touch on different standards as all of them have different purposes. They fit different clinical domains. There are different use cases for them as well. And in order for us to be semantically interoperable in Canada, meaning we're not just sharing information, but we can share the information and use the information, understand the meaning of the information, we need all these standards together. So as part of the course where you see for 536 on health information standards, that Linda gives the overview of all these standards, as well as this course, we'll be touching on a lot of the terminologies in here. Specifically for 536, this is the course overview, so it's split into 4 parts. There are 2 parts related to CT content and 2 parts related to CT adoption. So in the first class, we look at the introduction, we talk about what are some of the terminology requirements that you need, what are the standards life cycle, how standards are developed. And after that, we talk about what you need to do for requirements analysis in order to implement a particular standard. You also do some proposal development, and that's also part of assignment number 1. A lot of you may not be familiar with some standards, so we can come up with some use cases for you in order to create a proposal on how you select a standard, be able to check the readiness and feasibility of specific standards, and how you incorporate change management as well. And then my favorite part of the course or the range of the topics are CT content part 2, where we talk about mapping, how we map from different terminologies, do post coordination. You can translate between different languages, create extensions if there's not enough content, create subsets which are really useful in order to constrain a terminology. And very important, we're not just trying to capture data, we're also doing data retrieval. We also talk about quality assurance as well as terminology management and maintenance, as terminologies are advancing really quickly. A lot of terminologies now are updated every month as well. So we want to ensure that they are of high quality as well. And then now that we're familiar with all the different content or the different terminologies, we want to see how we can actually adopt them into an information system. So we go through technical requirements. What are some of the strategies that we can use for implementation? What kind of education and training that people need to go to in order to be able to understand the implementation, and how we can evaluate to determine whether a terminology has been successfully implemented. In terms of the course from January to March, I think this is the first time it actually ends on March 31st. Usually there's one class that ends in April, but this time my class is switching from the usual Thursday to a Tuesday, so we actually do not have a class in April. So it runs from January to March, and there are 12 different classes, as you saw from the earlier slide. We have a lot of hands-on activities, so we have 8 different activities to help you gain a practical understanding of the terminology. So it's not just theoretical concepts, we want to make it more applicable for you in order for you to know how to use the terminologies. And we have also a couple of assignments, creating a business case report as well as adoption strategy report. So hopefully after you complete this course, you will have a more practical understanding of terminologies and will be able to implement it in your organizations as well. Are there any questions for me before I hand it over to Simon? Okay, Simon, I'll hand it back to you.
Thanks, Dennis. That's a great overview. And multitasking here. Hang on. Yay. And it hopefully gives the impression that it's not only a theory learning as well, but you also have a significant hands-on. And I should mention that hands-on, I know we throw the terms around things like coding and mapping, but it's not done as a software development keyword or buzzword. We're not talking about computer programming as such. We're talking about manipulating the codes embedded within the standard as well. So fear not. So you can see how after doing a deep dive, after learning the basics and the overview from HINF 535, you then do a deeper dive into controlled terminology standards in Dennis's HINF 536. So very shortly after, now you may be aware that there are 3 terms at University of Victoria. So we instead take the last 2 courses and make each one a compressed term. So you actually do 2 courses over the summer, as opposed to splitting it over to fall into another year. So between April and May, the first term in the summer, Linda teaches the HINF 537 Health Information Exchange Standards. And again, this is taking the knowledge you've learned before and the skills you've picked up from doing the previous 2 classes, and then focusing on how information is exchanged between organizations. Beg your pardon. And I should mention that this is where, to use a vulgar term, this is where the money is in health information standards. Your knowledge gained throughout this course, if you have an entrepreneurial bent of mind, could be put to use to set up a company even that specializes in getting health organizations who are not specialists in this area to exchange information with each other. Lots and lots of funding is available for things like that. So HINF 537 is where you explain HIE, explore HIE in more depth. During that, typically at the beginning of May, there is a virtual workshop. And that is where, instead of having just the Monday class or weekly class, sometimes it's Monday, sometimes it's Tuesday, you instead have 3 or 4 days worth of regular 5 to 7 p.m. meetings, and you kind of get all of your lectures done within that space. So it was very successful this year, really well attended. We had around 80 people show up for the virtual workshop. It's opened up to the wider community as well. So it's also your opportunity to virtually meet other people, and you also get a good sense of the way the courses are delivered as to what it is that people do in the standards realm within healthcare, because most of the lectures are given. They're all hosted by our hosts, but they're also given by guest lecturers who are members of industry, members of CIHI, members of Ontario Health, members of Canada Health Info, and other entrepreneurial people come in and actually spend their time covering the course content. So you get a good overview as to what the landscape is like in terms of professionalism in the industry. So it's one of the fringe benefits of this, is you get access to that audience. Okay, so that's between April and May. The virtual workshop is the key part of it. Okay, then those 3 courses form the core of your learning. And the last course, held at the end of the summer period, June to August, is known as the capstone course. It's numbered HINF 597. It's a field project in health informatics. That's a catch-all for this kind of course. And in it, you take what you've learned and you pick a topic area that interests you, ideally, and you engage in a quick research project. As the term progresses, you meet regularly with your instructor with one-on-one meetings, and again, attend a weekly online 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific time lecture with your lecturer, who's Dr. Bird for this course. So don't be daunted by that. Here are some example field projects. And again, if you are coming from industry, this may not be very difficult to choose. So I'm going to show you a whole bunch. I'll just show them on the screen so you can read while I'm talking through. I've got a couple in there to explore. So you could identify requirements, for example, for a specific terminology. So pick a terminology, pick a healthcare organization. It might be the one you work at. And how would this standard apply to your organization? And explore that as a field project. And you complete your field project, hand it in, it gets marked, and that's the last course, you're done. Okay. Alternatively, you could develop specifications for a structured data entry retrieval template. This could be a form. It could be another methodology for gathering data, but you want to do it in a structured way so that people's input go in and standards come out. How would that work? If that's something that might interest you, then you could pick a topic like these. These aren't the topics you get to pick. These are just examples, right? You can go completely think out of the box here as you. It is your right to do that. Another one, you could map local drug terms to the CCDD, the Canadian Clinical Drug Database. Mapping operations are the bread and butter of standards, so there's lots that could be done in there as well. You might decide to do a more traditional approach and engage on a literature review, maybe something like a rapid review, and evaluate some terminology and how it would impact the quality of care. And you could do that retrospectively as well, because there are studies out there within this area, and you could review those and gain a much deeper understanding of how standards impact healthcare. And just thinking off the top of my head here as well, we are now inundated by AI. You can't escape it. You can't do a Google search now without getting AI coming back. Well, you think about how those large language models are made and how data is incorporated into generative AI projects. And imagine what are the implications of feeding standardized data, such as SNOMED CT, for example, into an AI self-learning system. Who knows what that means? But thank you for my correction. Sorry, thank you, Dennis. There is an error on the slide. CCDD refers to the Canadian Clinical Drug Data Set. Yeah, so you see where my head was at. Anyway, so field projects is really, it's about exploring your interests as opposed to doing the things that we require you to do. And that's the nature of a capstone course. The more you're involved in it because you picked the topic, because you're interested in it, the easier it is to actually engage with it. All right, so moving on. You may have recalled right at the beginning, I said there are two streams. This is true. We have what's known as the professional stream and what's known as the graduate stream. Now, this Health Terminology Standards Certificate program is a graduate level program. And that means typically that you need to have a BSc, a baccalaureate degree from a recognized institution in order to be able to apply for it. Now, I think on the other slide, I have more notes there, but I can just talk through them. If you have significant work experience, and by significant, I mean 15 years or more, then the Graduate Admissions and Records Office will forego the BSc requirement and let you in on the basis of that. And that set up an initial problem for us really early on, because it meant that, well, people who may not have a BSc but are working in an area where health standards is important, they don't want to wait 15 years in order to take a course to learn more about it. So we founded the professional stream with the Division of Continuing Studies to allow that to happen. The professional stream does not have the 15-year requirement. It's less well defined, but if you have some work experience in the area, then you're eligible to join the program as a professional stream student. Okay, some of the notes here on the next one, the main difference between the two of them, because they're all the same courses, it's all the same coursework, it's the same credential, which again I'm going to get to. That's no different between the two streams. You attend the same class with everybody else. The difference between the two of them is that with the graduate stream, you earn course credit towards a graduate degree. So say you take the HTIS certificate, later on, within 10 years, you decide to apply to a master's program within the same subject area, then you can use the course credit from the certificate to apply against your coursework requirements in the master's program. Okay, simple enough. In the professional stream, there's no course credit. So that's really the major difference. Okay. Again, if you're wondering, during the Q&A, ask questions about this, and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay. So what is this CTSS? Well, remember when I was mentioning the program was founded as a way to get students educated to the level where they could earn the Certified Terminology Standards Specialist credential offered by the Canadian College of Health Information Management, CCHIM. CCHIM, CHIMA, they're basically the same organization. Okay, so they offer the CTSS, and it means that if you complete the course, you go to CHIMA, get your CTSS, and now you can put that on your resume, stick that on your business card, and you have your ticket, if you like, to work with standards in healthcare. All right, so the CHIMA website has lots of things and a couple of short videos that you can look at as well. Okay, and what we're starting to see as a result of all of this is that CTSS is beginning to become present in job advertisements. Here's one, for example, a clinical coding specialist needed by Hamilton Health Services in Ontario, you know, the hammer. They would require CHIMA certification. There it is there. I don't know if you can see it. It's on the second to last line there. CHIMA certification as one of the perks. If you have this certification, you're more likely to get this job than somebody who doesn't have it, for example. Okay, so how does this help my career? Well, the short story is that people in healthcare have many knowledge areas, and if you are the one that has the knowledge of standards, generally, you can become the glue of the organization, whereby no matter what the project is, if it involves standards, you might be asked to participate because of your knowledge. Okay, it makes you a niche player for sure, but also a very useful employee and person on the team. Okay, so I got a couple of examples here. In Canada Health Info hires many people in standards. So there was a time, if you recall, when we didn't have any COVID. And so therefore there were no standardized codes or representations of what COVID, its treatments, its symptoms were. But then quickly, very quickly, in a period of a couple of months, there was a set of data standards to describe COVID, to send that information around. Okay, so people with this skill set were employed in getting that stuff done. The Pan-Canadian Patient Summary is currently underway. There are Canadian specifications for that, and our people are also getting involved in that. And any kind of health information exchange project as well within healthcare is going to be standards-based, or should be. And there are lots of ways to get involved in this. Okay. Most specifically, here's a picture of Kelly Davidson. He's a recent MSc graduate. He's a nurse. He has the CTSS certification, working in BC, and it's just gone off the bottom of my screen there. And he says we need homegrown terminology experts to work on projects like this in healthcare, and this certificate program is a route to getting that done. Okay, so we're going to wrap this up, and I'll open the floor up for questions from